So, have you ever had your amygdala hijacked? What is that? It's when our brain reacts to sudden danger or fear, and it gets emotional, and we make those quick, irrational decisions, and we get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze. We're going to talk today about how to get out of that when it happens, and also ways to prevent that. So an amygdala hijack, also known as amygdala anxiety, happens when our brain reacts to psychological stress as if it's physical danger. And it, as I said, the fight, flight, or freeze situation comes up. And an amygdala hijack is an emotional response that is immediate, overwhelming, and out of character with the actual stimulus because it triggered something within us, maybe from the past. So we're going to get into ways to get over amygdala hijack, amygdala anxiety, and stay out of that fight, flight, because we only need it in emergencies. When we're always in that state due to everyday stress, it's not good for our health. And I'm Nurse Ann, and I'm a certified emergency and mental health registered nurse on the front lines for many years and still going. And this channel is here for your inspirational wellness for your mind, your body, and your spirit, because they work together in synergy. So make sure you follow, like, share, comments all along as we go, because we all need brain hacks to get out of our struggles, our mind battles, our boxes, things that are hard to overcome. And I love to share those situations with you. So do you feel sometimes like your mind is being hijacked, maybe by stress, pressure, fear, threats, whatever? Let's go over these tools now to take back our minds. So that amygdala hijack, our brain thinks it's an actual stressful event when it might just be day-to-day pressures, anxiety, but sometimes we can switch over into that mode even when it's not an actual physical danger. And a similar event also happens. There's another term I'm going to bring up today in addition to amygdala hijack and anxiety is limerence. And limerence, we're going to discuss that, but our brain can also kind of block our frontal lobe, which stops us from making rational decisions when we're in that limerence and or fight or flight. And limerence usually happens when we're starting maybe a new love relationship and we get caught up in the infatuation, the obsession, the fantasizing, and then we get maybe stuck in that limerence where we're not making rational choices, because it's even been said sometimes our frontal lobe actually kind of stops processing rational information, and then we just start making all those emotional decisions. We don't want that for our life plan, and we also don't want that in the heat of the moment in that amygdala hijack. So let's talk about ways to get out of that. As I said, it can shut down the frontal lobe temporarily and decreasing our ability to make those rational choices. And along with these scientific tips, I'm also going to infuse science meeting scripture so that we can lay foundations of getting our minds right, getting our minds ready, and just looking at other ways to handle situations. And the science meets scripture today that I'm thinking of going along with getting our minds ready for those attacks. I chose today Romans 12 because it's just always reminding us to renew our minds continually through scripture, through prayer, through the word. Just keep renewing our minds with the truth instead of just everything we see going on around us. And that can lay those foundation, those building blocks. So when a lot of different attacks and anger and aggression or fear come at us, we'll have already set some of the groundwork. And we're going to also go over other ways to pre-plan and set groundwork to be ready for these things in life. As I said, I'm Nurse Ann. Make sure you're following, like, and share. And at the end, which won't take too long, I know your time is valuable, I always offer a bonus prize. You're going to get a quick, action-packed chapter from my fictional drama, but you will have to buckle up because you're going to be riding along with the frontline workers as they rescue those in crisis of mental, physical, and spiritual. And you're going to love that action-packed series because not only is it action and adventure, danger, suspense, romance, faith, and inspiration, it's also full of advocacy and awareness of what we go through in our minds, in mental health and emergency, the church, the community, families, and so much more. So that applicable verse from Romans 12 does remind us to constantly renew our minds and preset our thoughts and have those building blocks. Because you know what? We want to lay that solid foundation so when those winds of stress, anger, and adversity attack, which they will, we know that, we can weather the emotional storm with more wisdom and rationality. So, also, before we jump into the facts and the helpful tips, I want you to know that in collaboration with today's podcast about amygdala hijack and amygdala anxiety and limerence, recent podcast, the last one I did was about trauma-informed care, trauma healing, and trauma bonds, because these kind of all tie together where if we're stuck in a trauma bond that we haven't healed from, haven't dealt with, or that we don't even know the facts about, that we're actually in it, it causes us to make relationship and other decisions just based on maybe what feels familiar from our past, even from our childhood, and that we just get stuck in cycles and we might not know about that. So you do want to check out that podcast. I also did a recent podcast about recharging your brain, about one about emotional intelligence, one about emotional resilience. I did a good one about anxiety and your prescription for that. And another very recent one was, are your choices emotional or rational? So all this ties in together because we do need a lot of tools so we can make better decisions and not quick emotional ones that we might regret or be embarrassed about or could mess up our life plan. And so all of these are vital to learn and work on ongoing basis. As I said, science, scripture, facts, learning, they all go hand in hand to revitalize our decision making for our highest growth. Well, as I said, stay to the end for the bonus. But right now, let's go ahead and get some of the facts to help you with that. And then we'll get into also some of my devotionals to have the science meet scripture and just different life practical tips as we go. So, as I said, amygdala hijack and amygdala anxiety is the amygdala is part of the limbic system. And it's also called the emotional brain. It's part of that frontal lobe region, which regulates emotions and our behavioral responses. So we do want to learn ways when things happen in the moment to deal with this, which we're going to do, and also ways to learn ahead so we can kind of train our brains and our minds not to just jump into the wrong decision. When it's hijacked, as I said, we go into fight, flight, that survival mode. And it's not healthy to always be in that survival mode. And we can definitely feel like we're there. And in this fight or flight, it's great in emergency situations because we do need that extra energy and adrenaline to get out of danger. But as I said, it can give you long-term negative health effects. So when confronted suddenly and or unprepared with danger, fear, stress, or anger, our body does go into that quick fight or flight. Our body prepares for potential physical danger. In some of the ways it does that, it increases our blood flow to our muscles for strength and speed. It expands our airway so we can take in and use more oxygen. It increases our blood sugar for increased energy. And it can also dilate our pupils for better vision, for faster responses. And when these things happen, we might feel our heart racing, clammy skin, goosebumps. We might actually feel that happening in the moment. So we have to learn about this ahead of time so we know what to do. And as I said, these are great for danger and emergencies, but we don't want to fall into fight or flight at other times because it just really stresses our health and can cause long-term health problems. So stress, anger, fear can be triggers for those sudden irrational decisions. We want to learn what our life triggers are so that we can work on those. This is so important. And back to, as I said, limerence. It can cause also those irrational, maybe embarrassing related behaviors and choices. So we're going to learn about that too. Can we stop an amygdala hijack? Let's go over those tools to pre-plan, Pre-practice some of those that can help in the moment to help avoid making quick, emotional, and or those embarrassing decisions that are not the best for our life plans. Sorry, Nurse Ann has this scratchy throat and cough this week that's going around. I hope you don't. So some of the tools that you can actually work on ahead of time and use in the moment of these situations. Always a good one, a big one, is breathing, slow in, slow out. Some people do the square or the box breathing and watch that, which helps them think about taking those slow, deep breaths, and that will help bring you back. Ahead of time, meditation, mindfulness, prayer, journaling, getting those habits in place so you can start thinking on a more level way. It also said what you can do if you are caught in that emotion and you're not quite sure what to do. It said, try to remember this, plant it in your brain so that it will come up. Name the emotion. So step back and say, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling jealous, or just name that emotion that maybe kind of twerk it back to you thinking about what's going on. Also, it reminded us that we could change our setting, move out of that room, go out, take a walk in the building, go out in nature. That always helps. Walks are great, or just getting into a different room, a different setting. Another great tip that they provided was do a math problem in your head. When you feel yourself jump into that fight or flight or emotional anger or response, as I said, practice it ahead of time and just start doing some math problem, counting backwards, or just something that will switch over. It can help switch over into your rational side of your brain. And they also taught us that a 6-second rule. So it takes the chemicals released during this amygdala hijack 6 seconds to start to dissipate. So during that time, if you could do one of or more of these things, hopefully that quick chemical reaction of that amygdala will dissipate so you can get back to somewhere level and not make unwise decision. And after you've had this triggering episode, it's great to step back. It's always great to step back in life, to look at what happened, reflect on it, take that quiet time, and think about what your triggers are. Your stress triggers, your trauma triggers, your life triggers. And as I said earlier, learn about your trauma bonds that you might not even know what those are and that they exist. And a lot of times they even stem from childhood, just the environment we grew up in, where we always kind of go back to the familiar. So definitely want to learn your stress triggers, trauma triggers, life triggers, and work on those. And time in reflection and scripture and prayer, that's so important as we learn about ourselves and learn about what the Word and God tells us is things that we can think about and work on according to that best plan for our life, so that we can avoid those emotional, detrimental, and possibly embarrassing actions. And to align, as I said, with today's learning, we're going to jump into some of my published devotionals, because it's going to go along with what we're talking about and help you think about this in a practical way for your life. So let's do that. The first one by Nurse Ann, hopefully your favorite nurse and new indie author. I have Energized Health, Body, Mind, and Spirit. As I said, our mind, body, and spirit do work together in synergy. So we want to keep that in mind. And today I just kind of jumped into some things you will remember to always get enough sleep, eat healthy, drink lots of water, healthy beverages, healthy food choices, stretching and exercise. One of the worst habits you can do is sit or lay around all day. So you want to walk, move, stretch. And I found the term forest bathing interesting because it's energizing to find that a stroll in nature has powerful healing properties for body, mind, and spirit. It can also be referred to as nature therapy and or ecotherapy. You can boost your immunity and lower your stress by immersing yourself under the trees or some other aspect of nature. And God's creation is an awesome wonder. And don't forget your family, fun, and restful times, just leaving behind your daily grind and hanging out with friends and family and just having some fun, and that's going to help too. And the second devotional is my Inspiration Battles devotional, Biblical Medicine for Real Life and Soul Searching with a Dose of Encouragement, because we know the battle to stay inspired can be overwhelming at times. And I chose a couple from here to help us learn ways ahead of time to avoid those amygdala hijacks, those fight or flight situations. One is called Worry. This is an A to Z devotional, so it's from the letter W, and it's worry. God cares so much about the subject of anxiety that he took the time to present powerful, love-infused sermons to encourage a better way. He even included the basics of food and clothing to help us know that everything is in his capable hands. Even after we spend times of rest and saturating our minds with his truth, when we step back into our daily demands, we are pressured to resume the posture of ruminating, thinking over and over about all of the what ifs. That happens to me. Does that happen to you? Leave in the comment what you ruminate about and worry about what if. That's something that does happen. But until we humble ourselves to know that we are not designed to run this world, we'll be trapped in an endless battle of trust versus worry. That can happen. You are invited to cast every care and burden. When we let go of our notion of control, we release the powers of supernatural peace to flood us with relief and surpass even the rational understanding of the moment, what we've been talking about. So get your mind prepared for that. Spend quiet time, spend time with God, get in the Word. It's going to prepare your mind to maybe get into that more tranquil state and be able to deal with these situations. It might not make sense when we survey our present circumstances, but we're invited to allow God to prove his faithfulness and provision of our every need. And I know that's something that I can worry a lot about, a provision for needs, especially for the future. So I need to work on that too. Another other one I chose is called quietness. Spending quiet time and getting that infused into our life is so important. Noise is everywhere. Blaring TVs, loud music, incessant conversations, and podcasts about everything can be listened to 24/7. This is a good podcast, though. Inspirational wellness. But what can we hear in the silence? Does that seem like an odd question? Or can you envision having space to hear softly chirping birds, gentle lapping waves, or perhaps the soft but audible whisper of heavenly guidance? Groups can clamor for having the next word, and drivers can angrily honk as they whiz by to rush to their destination. Before we realize it, our lives can be an endless stream of duties and loudness. Scheduling downtime is vital to avoid burnout from the unceasing busyness. However, if we neglect to seek this quiet time, sometimes we can feel the hand of the Lord imposing it for us to show us something more substantial. Being led to still waters and walking in ways of gentleness will only lead to refreshing and inspiration. As we come out of our times of devotion and tranquility, we will realize we didn't miss out on anything of more value than that Sabbath rest. So Inspiration Battles Devotional by Nurse Ann. Link at the website. The website is nurseann.com. You can see it in the description, and that's Ann with an E. One more, and then we are going to jump into, I know your time is valuable, so we're almost getting to the bonus, the prize. I'm going to do 2 more from this one, and then we're going to do that. So this is Word Puzzles Devotional. It's interesting words. I tried to pick kind of different sounding words linked to our everyday life and our inner thought and those mind battles, along with those relevant biblical prescriptions, so you can get your dose of wisdom and inspiration. I want you to overcome and thrive, deal with situations, so there is hope and new light for your life journey, and there's medicine for your soul. So today I chose 2. The first one is from the letter A, and it's called affrew. Have you ever heard that word? It means dreadful or frightful, Health challenges, family problems, income struggles, and a myriad of situations can tempt us to fear. And just when we thought we had the battle for anxiety and fear defeated, something or someone challenges us with something new or old. Our own thoughts can be plagued with panic and dread, especially when we get in that fight or flight, amygdala hijack situation. So allow the promise from Psalm 56:3 to drench your fearful heart with peace. When we feel afraid, we're invited to trust the Lord. Simple words, big promise. And that's from the word afru. One more, then we're going to jump in. And I chose from the letter M. No, this isn't Sesame Street, but it's sponsored by the letter M, and it's malacophonous. Say that 3 times. Malacophonous. It means a soft or gentle voice. Yelling and anger saturate the world. You can be just about anywhere and witness a display of impatience and flaring tempers at battle. Just driving in traffic is enough to cause a meltdown from an otherwise peaceable person. The title of a book by Dr. Charles Stanley is another evidence of the enormity of the problem. I have that book. It's called Surviving in an Angry World by Dr. Stanley. Very good. What is the solution? Fire back your own dangerous arsenal? I'm sure you've heard that the saying that anger is 1 letter away from danger. So as an emergency and mental health nurse for many, many years and still going on the front lines, I don't think that I could have survived this field for so long without attempting the practice suggested from Proverbs 15:1. When we reply with a gentle or soft answer, which I don't always do, but I strive to do that, it can help soothe the atmosphere of anger and animosity. On the other hand, we are reminded that harsh words given in return will add fuel to the fire of fury. So more practical wisdom from our guidebook for living. And this is Word Puzzles Devotional. I just want to show you these 2, and then we're going to jump into the prize, the bonus, so you can get on with your day or listen to another podcast. I have Mental Healing Poetry Devotional. You're going to love this. It's going to help you. I started doing spoken word in addition to being your favorite nurse, new indie author, and so many other life responsibilities. I started doing spoken word. So you can read these, and you can also hear it at my website, nurseann.com. There is a spoken poetry and an Ignite Life tab where I do the spoken word on video for you, and you can hear some other good artists. So there's one in here called a spoken word called Quietness. I'm not going to do it because we're running out of time, but you can hear it at my website. Get the book, and I've also read it on another podcast. So life challenges are discussed along with God-ordained courage and healing, mental healing, so we can turn away from them as mindsets controlled by fear. Lots of inspiration for you to step into your true destiny of a faith walk and purpose-driven path. Mental Healing Poetry Devotional by Nurse Ann. One more, Ignite Life Poetry Devotional. That's my second spoken word, but I really did a lot of advocacy for struggles that you might be going through, situations where people really struggle in their mind or in so many other practical ways. And we talk about that and get a lot of inspiration too. So as I said, let's jump into the quick action-packed chapter of my published fictional drama. It's a 6-part series, as you know, that I created in my free time as a busy nurse. And to make it easier, and it's almost free, I put it in one book. It's the Mental Files First 6 Stories edition. Yes, link on the website. And I also had it made into an audiobook since we don't always have time to read. And not only that, it was narrated by Drama Simpson, and he brought it to life with siren noises, action, 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 danger, and so much more. And you feel like you're really in there with the frontline workers, the emergency workers, paramedics, caseworkers, police, doctors, the church, family, community. There's advocacy for homelessness, dementia, autism, anxiety, bullying, relapse, addiction, so much more. In addition to that, you also ride along with the same frontline workers and you see their relationship drama and all their thought battles. You're going to love that. So we've already finished book 1, Sheep Among Wolves. You met the young lady living on the street, fending for herself, trying to fend off ravenous predatory wolves, people, while battling frightening hallucinations. Book 2, Dr. John Doe. We talked a lot about dementia in there and just the struggles of the frontline workers. Now we're in A Tent Under the Bridge. Then we'll do Defenders of the Work, Anxiety and Bullying, how they help each other overcome that. Then there's Ready, Willing, and Able. We talk about the spectrum and autism and how people can actually develop their own unique talents no matter what their label or disability is. And they can shine and be heroes in the lives of others with that. And then the season finale, because this is made to be a television drama with your help, is Out of Control. We talk about relapse, addiction, entitled patients, and the culmination of the relationship that's really exciting in here. So let's jump in so you can go. It's going to be quick. Today's chapter is a little bit longer, but it still doesn't take that long. So it's the Mental Files, Book 3, A Tent Under the Bridge. You met the homeless lady living in a tent. She went to the store and got caught doing something she shouldn't. They were going to take her to jail. She said she was going to hurt herself, went to the ER. So we've been to the ER. And you also hung out with the officer and his buddies at their after work hangout, where he asked his buddies, Leon is the officer, and he's thinking of a big decision with the caseworker, Lita. Even though she sensed a lot of red flags, he still has fallen for her and asked his buddies about a big decision. They kind of discouraged him, saying he would never change because he's just like a player and hanging out all the time, and he would probably just break her heart. So he's kind of confused about that. So now we're in chapter 8, and it's called Confidant. Do you have any confidants in your life? People that have wisdom and are living in a way that you strive and hope for. Those are good to have. Mentors, confidants, people that can help guide you on the right way. So chapter 8, Confidant. Leon was looking forward to the usual Wednesday evening ministry group that he attended every week with Lita. She had him now attending ministry groups. It was a guaranteed date night with a beautiful caseworker that he had fallen for. The young adult group was definitely a different scene than the usual hangout at Sports Time Bar. Surprising himself, the officer thought how much this activity was appealing more and more to him. Have you noticed that sometimes if you hang out with a different crowd, hopefully people that are doing something that will help your life, that you can start enjoying that? The camaraderie of this group was different than the usual boisterous jokes and beer guzzling that he was used to at the bar. And he also pleasantly noticed that he had not even missed the usual round of dates with different single ladies. Lita was more than the sum total of all of his frivolous sport dates. And that even goes back to that term limerence, where sometimes if we're just doing quick dating, meeting people quickly, and then we get into that obsession, that infatuation, and it can shut down our frontal lobe where we start making emotional decisions. And we might regret those or be embarrassed by them later. So maybe Martin is wrong about me, he hoped. Maybe I can change. So it sounds like Leon's starting to want to make a different life choices. After the Bible study, the group made plans for a ministry mission at the end of the month. While they planned, they snacked on the homemade cake Lita had brought. Wow, she can bake too, thought Leon. There's no way I can let this woman get away. As Lita went to help with the children's group, she silently wondered if she had done something to push Leon away. He had seemed so quiet lately, like he had a lot on his mind. He hadn't told her yet of the decision that he's thinking about, so she's just wondering if she did something wrong. Maybe he's tired of dating just one woman, she sadly pondered. After most of the group had gone to do other activities at the church, Leon and Jonathan found themselves alone for the first time. The two instantly hit it off with a great and intense conversation about life. Leon respected the wisdom the ministry leader displayed. Even though Jonathan had spent time in jail, he had done a complete 180 with his life. What do you need to do a 180 about in your life? Leave that in the comments, and we'll discuss and get some help and prayer for that. Now Jonathan was leading a ministry team to help others learn computer skills. He had a stable career and was always willing to listen. He seemed to actually care about what people were going through. It's nice to meet people like that, isn't it? Leon was relieved when Jonathan asked him questions about his relationship with Lita. Before he knew it, Leon had gushed out everything that had been binding his heart and his mind. He was again relieved that Jonathan listened with interest and did not laugh or make fun of his thoughts, which sometimes his other buddies did. The conversation turned serious when the officer offered his ideas about the proposal. Lita wondered why everything got suddenly quiet when she went into the room where the two were intensely talking so she could retrieve her purse. What's going on, she thought, with a sense of worry. After she left the room, Jonathan shared his thoughts about the plan with his new friend. Leon listened intently to what his new confidant had to say. Maybe Jonathan could mentor me like I'm mentoring Mars, Leon wondered. Jonathan explained, I definitely see that you and Lita care for each other. And Leon, I've been impressed with the way that you treat her. But hearing about your recent dating habits and newness to this faith thing, I have to think that maybe some counseling would be good. Counseling, wondered Leon with an unsettled feeling. We actually have premarital couples counseling here, and the biblical therapists are excellent at helping people figure out big decisions in life as related to the wisdom of Scripture. You can go by yourself at first to get a sense of what you might need to confront and work on in your life. As I said, we can work on things in our life ahead of time, and it saves us a lot of painful consequences from emotional decisions. Marriage is a big commitment, and I know that Lita knows about being unequally yoked. Leon, I'm not trying to discourage your plans, just hoping you would consider laying a solid foundation and taking your time. Leon wasn't sure how to take this information. Even though he respected Jonathan's words, he had to admit he felt a little offended about someone suggesting that he needed a counselor. And what on earth did he mean about being unequally yoked? As the men heard the ladies laughing and making their way back, they politely ended their discussion. Call me any time, Leon, offered Jonathan as he gave Leon his phone number. Thanks a lot, I sure will, replied Leon. Catching the final words, Lita wondered what she had missed. The ride home seemed awkward with her date. What is on his mind? She nervously wondered. Trying to sustain the small talk in the hope of getting him to open up seemed fruitless this evening. After he walked her to her door and gave her a hug, Leon drove home with confusion swirling up a muddy cloud in his brain. I wonder if Martin was right all along. Maybe I'm not good enough for this nice woman. And that's the end of that chapter. Next is chapter 9, Abigail overhears. I'm going to let you go. We ran a little bit long, but I really don't want you to have your amygdala hijacked, amygdala anxiety. I don't want you to be in fight or flight all the time. So listen back to these tips, and the other podcasts also help. But I will definitely see you at the next nurseann.com podcast. Follow, like, share, leave your comments today. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you.